Okay, I think we are live now. Fantastic. Yes, one, two, three. Yes, we are. We are live. That's amazing. Okay, so let me just fix a few things here before we get started. Give me 1 second. It doesn't say if we are on.
It says live. I
It
can
says
see that.
live, right? Yeah, right now. Okay. Okay, so I'm just waiting for it to say that people have joined or not. Let me just see. Let me just mhm. Can yeah, it is. All right, we'll give people a few more minutes to join, I guess. We're still waiting for a few more people to join. Okay. I think we have a few people on uh, on the line now, which is great. We'll just give people maybe another minute or two.
Sure.
Sometimes people take a few minutes to come in. For those of you who have joined us, thank you so much for coming back after the last week's session to talk to us about building successful career strategies, especially coming into Canada. And today we are going to be talking about self awareness. We will be starting very shortly. Give us a few more minutes while we wait for a few more people to join us. Hopefully, we'll get started soon. All right, we have a few more people joining our webinar session, which is great. We are going to be starting very shortly. We're just waiting for a few more people to join. Thank you so much for logging in and joining us for the second part of our webinar series called Building Successful Strategies for a Career in Canada. Today, we're going to be talking about building self-awareness. You have myself, Omar Qadri, and Hamad Siddiqui. Give us a minute or two, and shortly we will begin very shortly. Thank you. Okay. All right. We will begin in another minute. All right. Let's get started, Ahmad sir.
Sure.
Okay. Hello, everyone. My name is Omar. I am your mindset coach, and I have with me Hamad Siddiqui, a person who has tremendous amount of experience doing leadership development, individual development. He's worked in many different countries for the last couple of decades, and now he's here in Canada helping us build a better version of ourselves, helping us optimize our LinkedIn, and giving us more and more techniques and tips and tools to improve our career success rates, especially here in Canada. Hamad, thank you so much for joining me today, and hopefully you're doing well.
I'm very well. Thank you very much. It's in Canada when you have sun, doesn't matter how hot it is, you feel energized and you really rejoice this moment. So I'm doing very
Absolutely.
good. Thank you very much.
This is great. I'm so happy to have you here. Today, we are going to be doing the second part of our series. We started this off last week, this series on building strategies for a successful career in Canada. We talked about a few issues that we, as a lot of newcomers, face, a lot of students they face when they're starting off their careers in Canada. And one of the things that we spoke about was number one, self awareness. There is a lack of preparation, there is a lack of self awareness. There are a lot of tools and techniques that we all can, we can adopt those tools and techniques to increase our self awareness, which is what we are going to be talking about today. Another issue that from last week's webinar that we spoke about was the aspect of networking. We do not have the right toolkits in our tools in our toolkit to do the networking, and that's something that we will be talking about next week. We'll give you those tools to improve your networking methods. And then we spoke about LinkedIn, how LinkedIn is such an important tool for optimizing your digital presence, because now, especially in the COVID environment, digital presence has become really, really important. So that's what we will talk about in the following week. And last but not the least, number four, we'll talk about building non cognitive capability, such as a growth mindset. So, with that, let's begin talking about our topic for today, which is very, very important in any type of success strategy, which is self awareness. The first step to any kind of success is building that self awareness. So, Hamad, let me start off by asking you the question about self awareness. And in fact, if since we have a few people on the line, um, watching us, guys, if you can hear us well, we would like you to, in the comment section, please shout out and write out, what do you believe, what does self-awareness mean to you, and why self-awareness is important to you as an individual. All right, while we are getting some comments and some responses from you guys, I'm going to wait and read out some of those. But for those of you, I'm going to quickly repeat what you have to do. If you can, in the comments section, just write out, what do you think self-awareness means, right? What is the definition of self-awareness to you as an individual? And secondly, tell us, why do you think self-awareness is important to you? All right. So the more people respond to us, the better it would be. But Hamad, why don't I start off by asking you that question while people are responding back to us on the comments?
Right. So, I was thinking about it right from the time when we actually figured out what we will talk in these four sessions.
Yeah.
And I think it's sort of a trick question to me. Because you see, one of the trick questions when you go for an interview is, where do you see yourself in 5 years? And
Right.
it's really, people really struggle to see where they can be in 5 years. People sometime daydream, where they
Yeah.
want to be, but what actions can they take to reach to their goal? I think perhaps that's it's these two things are intertwined, I think.
Mm-hmm.
So when you are self-aware, then you would do things that you would finally try to achieve your goal rather. So you have to have a goal, then you have to be
Right.
self-aware as to how do you
Uh,
achieve that goal. So,
absolutely.
so I mean, just to give you an example, so if somebody wants to be a 100-meter sprinter, you want to run 100 meter,
Hmm.
uh, but you don't really start running the very first day. um, uh, that is your goal, and how do
Yeah.
you achieve that goal is if somebody is weak, ill, naturally, for him setting up that kind of a goal is against uh, the reality. So I think reality is self-awareness brings you very close to reality in my way.
Absolutely.
And once you realize what the situation is, what the environment is around us, then you try to capitalize on that. So
Hmm.
anybody who's really interested in running 100-meter sprint would actually exercise, do some special kind of, take some meals, go to a physical fitness
Yeah.
instructor, a coach, and gradually start running and building their muscles and all that
Building
stamina.
towards it. Right.
So I think
Absolutely.
you have to have a goal, and the self-realization actually takes you to that goal, in my view.
Yeah, that is so true. That is very, very true. Having that understanding of who you are, what your strengths are, and aligning them to your goals, which you said, people have those goals, but they're not really sure about how to get to their goals and how to leverage their own strengths and weaknesses to get to those goals. And that's so important. And that is all part of self-awareness, right? And we have our first viewer, Mashal name, who's responded to us. Thank you so much for that, Michelle. She says self-awareness means better understanding of my emotions and actions. It is important so I can act sensibly in all kinds of situations, especially the difficult ones. And I really like that. I really like that because that's it's you and I, Ahmad, we spoke about aligning it to our goals, but also emotions. Michelle's talking about emotions, and that emotions play a huge role in all aspects of our life, not just in our careers. Yes, they play a huge role in our careers, but they also play a huge role in our personal lives as well. So having that understanding of our emotions absolutely is really important, and that's what self-awareness really brings to the table, right? If you are more self-aware, you have more control and over your emotions and then your actions. So thank you so much for sharing that. And she also
I have a
says that it,
question here. I have a question for
please,
you
yeah.
because you are an expert in this field because you have done studies and you really like subject so much that you run training programs even for
Yes,
that.
that's true.
Uh, what is one common thing that you find amongst the group that you interact with when you ask this question? What is one common thing? How do they respond?
So that's a very good question. I think whenever I have done a lot of training sessions on this topic of self awareness, Hamad, um, firstly, there are different kinds of groups, right? There are different types of groups who are, especially the young ones, this youth, the young working professionals. Whenever I talk to them, a lot of them, it's the first time they're even getting into an exercise of self awareness
Right?
because what let's look at our schooling systems. Our schooling systems, especially from back home or even in Canada, a lot of them, they are so focused. They're so focused on teaching you the knowledge and the skills of everything outside of outside of your physical and spiritual body, right?
Yeah.
You got to learn math, you got to learn geometry, you got to learn geography, you got to learn history, so on and so forth. And but there's no um, class in our schooling system that helps you generate or help you take a deep dive into your own self, which is kind of unfortunate, right?
Yeah.
So when I interact with those with that group, there's a shock in the first time. They're like, "Oh, I've never done this before. I've never even thought of this before. Why is this even important?" So for them, when I get into those sessions with them, for me, It's important for them. It's important for me to make them realize that how important this step is towards their career, towards their professional career, personal life, everything. And once they do understand that, going in and drilling deeper into their own self becomes a little easier. Now, comparing that to another group, another group who are entrepreneurs or who are already semi-successful, I see this pattern. They are already a lot more self-aware. People who are already on that journey, they have achieved some sort of success in their life. They are on this in some way or the other. You never know yourself the best. It's always a learning journey, but at the same time, those people have already taken that, so it doesn't come off as a shock to them, compared to the youth that I work with. So which is why we started off this particular session by asking people, what does self-awareness mean to them and why it is important.
Great. So I was, one of the books that I read
Mm-hmm.
few months ago is Robin Sharma's Monk Who Sold His Ferrari, and that
Uh-huh.
whole book actually talks about self-awareness throughout. And one of the message in that book is, which I personally don't agree with 100%, is that at times you become you become self-aware,
Uh-huh.
and then you actually it takes you into a trance in a situation where you just disconnect yourself with your surroundings. To me, I
Mm-hmm.
think maybe monks can live in that environment, but for us, people like, who socialize, who live in cities like Toronto,
Yeah.
it's very difficult to isolate themselves, and go into trance. What is your what is your take on it? Do we really need to go in trance to become self-aware?
It's a very good question that you ask, Hamad, and I don't really believe that you have to go into that. You have to become a monk to be self-aware. Yes, if you get to that level, that's a different goal altogether. Now, which is why, the most important question is why self-awareness is important to you, right? Um, it all goes back to your originating question of your why.
Mhm.
You don't need to go into that kind of a trance like the monks. You don't need to isolate yourself. You can still be a lot more self-aware. You can still pick up on certain techniques and tools that we will talk about in our session today, to become self-aware. But even if you're living in a metropolitan city like Toronto, right, in the hustle and bustle of Toronto, or any other city that you're living in, whether it's Mumbai, Delhi, or Dubai, or New York City, wherever you are. Now, to me, it's really important, you understand the why first, and then get
Mhm.
into adopting those techniques, and tools that we will be sharing with you guys today very shortly.
Right. And one of another pretty interesting. So I sometimes feel, Robin Sharma, he writes interesting pieces, at times, thought provoking. But one of the things that I absolutely agree with him on is that we have to cultivate our mind,
Yeah.
and really the quality of our life is determined by the quality of our thoughts. Um, and perhaps one of the ways to proceed or progress is to keep our thoughts positive.
Mm-hmm.
And if people who understand that they are getting into the negative
Right.
zone,
Yeah.
they should be self-aware as if they're actually getting into negative zone,
Absolutely.
and then only they can realign themselves. What do you
Absolutely.
think about it?
I completely agree with that. I think the first step to making any sort of change, behavioral change in your life, a mindset change in your life, the first step is to be aware that you're even making that mistake, right?
Hmm.
Being aware if you are having that sort of like a negative behavior or negative action. So this is where, your self-awareness comes and plays a huge role. Another thing I wanted to point out on that point is the fact that, there was a I was reading, Hamad, I was reading an article by Civic Action. And Civic Action said that they conducted a study in 2019. And that study, it said that 85% of the full-time employees, especially in North America, they feel disengaged in their jobs.
Mhm.
85%. What does that mean, right? If you think about it, that's a huge number. That means that 85% of us, we are spending a third of our lives doing something we do not enjoy. Imagine we all are spending almost 8 hours in our jobs, right? Minimum at least. And if you're spending that one third of your life feeling unfulfilled and with absolute no joy, feeling disengaged, man, that's such a loss. That is such a loss, in my opinion, right? It was a shocking
Absolutely.
stat for me. And again, it comes down to why are you not enjoying your job? Yes, it's helping you pay the bills, etc. But
Absolutely.
it comes down to lack of self-awareness, because perhaps you have given into the norms of the world, the norms of the society, of the community, about I just need to be an engineer, and I need to be a doctor or a lawyer, or I need to do an MBA, whatever the society in the world is, and you have followed that path, and you're now stuck in a corporate job, being a corporate slave, which is not really fulfilling for some people, right? Which is why that
Yeah.
stat, 85% of people feeling disengaged in their jobs. And the root cause of that is the fact that we never really invested time in our early in our lives to really understand who we really are and get on that path of what we are actually interested in, what our strengths are.
Absolutely. So, no, you're absolutely right. I think it's so we accidented. I mean, I've done career mentoring for so many years. In a number of time, what I felt is that people I coach,
Yeah.
they go or they get into a career by accident.
Yeah.
So, and once they're in that career, they're stuck.
Yeah.
They only realized after maybe into that career for
Many years after that, right?
10,
Yeah.
15 years in that career that, I mean, why am I even doing it?
Yeah.
And perhaps at that time, there is a trigger of this negative thought process. Initially, I think
Absolutely.
when you're young and you're getting into a career, the first thing is to get a job, to
Yeah.
kind of start building your wealth, buy a new car or, you know,
All those
maybe
materialistic things
all
that the world has
absolutely.
told us.
And that actually leaves the most important thing behind. The priority changes.
Yeah.
The priority changes from what you like doing to what you have to do because you have to survive.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
it's there's a very, very thin line in between. I mean, often people have to. So, for instance, if people are in Ontario and they have taken OSAP, they have to pay that OSAP back. So they have to land in a
Absolutely.
job to be able to pay that back.
Yeah.
But I think it starts from perhaps another 5 years earlier in your career, when you start looking at what degree that you want to get into,
Yeah,
or if you're
when
doing
you're
a
when you're in your
diploma.
high school, grade 10,
Right.
11, 12, when you're thinking about that career,
Right.
that's the ideal time when you should start looking into this aspect of self-awareness, because guess what? At that time, you're not handcuffed by the systemic structures of our society, which is the OSAP, for example, right? So
Yes.
when a lot of, as you said, that's a great point that you bring up, Ahmad, that people when they kids when they graduate, they have this stress about they're stressed about paying off their loans. And how do they do that? Well, they cannot really afford time off from work. They have to find a job, they have to be quick, they have to make money. And in this rush, in this go 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 mindset, there's no time to sit back, reflect, and think about, who am I, what do I
Yeah.
want, what kind of career do I want, what will give me fulfillment and joy. As a result, we see the stat that we talked about, 85% of the people feeling unfulfilled with their careers and feeling disengaged with their jobs. So we have another comment coming in, after which I think we should get into a little bit of the tools and techniques as well. So we have somebody asking, To me, self awareness means being able to understand what state of mind I am in and knowing how to deal with the situation that may arise. That's so true, right? Knowing what state of mind you're in, knowing what is your emotional state of mind, knowing what your physical state of mind is. Because if you are, as Hamad said earlier, if you are in that negative state of mind, probably you'll not be taking the right actions for yourself. Because
Yeah.
if you are aware of your own emotions, and if you're feeling negative, you will be aware that, okay, if I'm feeling negative, perhaps maybe the action that I'll take will not be the best action for me. Maybe it will be a negative action. So let me look back and reflect on how to deal with this particular situation. How can I make better decisions?
Yes, yes. No, yeah. I think there is another thing that just occurred to me, with the stats that you shared, and it's reality also. 85% people are unhappy. I mean,
Mm,
let's
yeah,
be let's be absolutely, fair about it.
yeah.
Because
And
when you are not fulfilling your emotional, I mean, if you don't like doing something and you're stuck with something, you are unhappy. That's
mhm,
period. There's
yeah,
nothing. There's just one
absolutely.
word, unhappy.
Yeah.
And think about it, companies, particularly in the West, are spending millions and millions of dollars in at least projecting that they are excellent employers.
Mm-hmm.
So if they're excellent employers, the job, or perhaps I would expect them not only to like do your social corporate responsibility towards your clients, your customers, your staff, your team is also your customer.
Right,
Then
exactly.
these expensive trainers who like charge anything between $5,000 to $15,000 a day to train a group of 5 to 10 to 15 people on team building and all that. And a lot of companies do that.
Yeah,
I
and that
mean,
has become the
how
norm.
can how can you build a team when your team members are unhappy? You will only end
Exactly.
up building a very unhappy team.
A
So,
group, if 85% of the people in that team are unhappy, then yeah,
yeah,
that overall vibe of that team will be unhappy. That's so
right,
well put. That's so well
right.
put.
So if you have a very unhappy team, how would you deliver? Uh,
Exactly.
I'm working with a client on his LinkedIn profile optimization,
Yeah,
and that client is a very very senior person in human resource development and organization development. A
right.
fantastic guy. Um, Now, when we start working on his tagline, what should be a tagline for such a person? And I came up with a tagline which is um, organization development excellence, team talent leadership. So team talent leadership. And now I'm thinking, if you have a team which is very unhappy, you will have awful talent and you have worse leaders.
Yeah.
Um, so I think, as we said, we have to start um, much earlier. And my question to you, Umar, as an expert,
Yeah.
is now when somebody is in high school or graduating from
Mm-hmm.
high school,
Yeah.
um, what is the best way for that person to look for somebody who can help him achieve that goal
Right.
about self-awareness? And I'm
Yeah.
purely talking from the futuristic point of view, as to how do you set your goal? What do you want to
Mm,
achieve in the next 5 years? Is
right.
perhaps my thinking.
So I think the answer to that question, Hamad, is it will not just apply to students who are starting off. Now, I
Yeah.
want to make sure we are very clear in one thing, that if you are not a teenager anymore and you have missed that boat, don't feel that, oh my God, my time is up. I can never feel fulfilled in my life. I have never done these self awareness exercises. You can always
Mhm.
start now. You can
Mhm.
always start today. Whether you are 18 years old or whether you are 50 years old, it does not matter, right?
Yeah.
You have the power. The amazing thing is you have the power of making a choice for yourself, right? You have the
Mhm.
power to make choice for yourself. And when you make that choice for yourself about, I'm going to get on that path of learning more about my own self, that is the day you will see the changes in your life. Now let's talk about the tools, right? You asked me how do you go about on that path, whether you're an 18-year-old who's looking at his career, or whether you're a 50-year-old who's trying to move from one country to the other and is looking to start again from scratch. The first thing I would suggest, and this is one thing I always tell all my clients who I work with, all the mentees that I mentor, start journaling. Number one, right? Start journaling. Journaling is really, really important because and there are different techniques for journaling. I have been interviewing a lot of successful people for my other video cast series that you will find, which is called The Secrets of Greatness. In that series, I've had a lot of successful people from different facets of life: athletes, CEOs, coaches, authors. And one thing, Hamad, surprisingly, they have all spoken about one common thing they have all spoken about, which has led them to be successful, is journaling, right?
Mm.
They all spend time each and every single day. And it doesn't have to be an hour long exercise. This is just 5 to 10 minutes of your day. I think
Right.
we all can spend 5 to 10 minutes each day to do some journaling. Now, there are different techniques. The one that I'm
Mhm.
going to tell you, which I believe is a very, very important technique, a quick one, it will only take you 5 minutes. And remember, start with baby steps. All right. This is a technique that my dear friend Luki Danukaranto, he told me about.
Mhm.
This technique is called 5221. All right, I'm going to repeat that. It's called 5221. 5221 stands for where 5 is the 5 minutes that you're going to spend doing journaling. And how you're going to divide these 5 minutes is into three parts: 2 minutes writing down, you know, all the things that you did during the day, right? All the things that you did during the day that you did not enjoy. Okay, that you did not enjoy. So list out all the things in 2 minutes that you did not enjoy. Then spend another 2 minutes writing out all the things that you did during that day that you actually really enjoyed and it gave you positive energy. And last but not the least, spend the last 1 minute writing down um, a strategy, a simple one liner, how you can do more of the things that you enjoy and less of the things that you don't enjoy. All right.
Yeah.
So this is a very, very simple technique: 5221, 5 minutes of your day. Literally, when you're ending your day, don't try not to end your day by scrolling through Instagram or Facebook or LinkedIn or whatever you're scrolling. It's not good for our health. There are a lot of studies that have been done. Spend that time resourcefully, by spending time in your own head, reflecting back on your day, reflecting back on your life, and making a better plan for tomorrow. That's the strategy for sex. That's what different those tiny steps, baby steps, are the ones that differentiates successful people from the not so successful people.
Right. So I think you have some questions coming in. I can
Yes.
I can see a few questions. Uh, but before we do that, one of the point that I have is, and at least and there and people are talking about it openly actually,
Mm-hmm.
is the role of these social media platforms in our lives.
Yeah.
I think we are in one way over glamorizing people that we see on social media,
Mm-hmm.
or we get into a very depressive mode when we see things which are not good, like
Right.
maybe blast
Yeah.
or accidents or killings or whatever.
Yeah.
Uh, and it's very difficult for us to strike a balance between the two,
Right.
or strike a balance between how much time would you want to spend on looking at someone else's
Yeah.
issues or posts or
Exactly.
updates or things as compared to your own self-awareness. I think it's a very delicate discussion, perhaps. But what I see is that, like, I have young kids,
Mm-hmm.
and they often, instead of enjoying their own whatever they have been awarded, gifted, uh, you know, they would like to appreciate someone else unnecessarily. Appreciates it.
Right.
I mean, more than appreciation, it's like over
Yeah.
glamorizing it,
Over
uh,
glamorizing.
which actually is sort of negative connotation to something positive can be discussed. So what I'm asking is, how do they strike that balance before we go to Shakil Saab's
Right.
question?
I think
How do we strike that
striking
balance between
bet-
like
yeah.
sorry, self-awareness and enjoying what you have rather than either struggling to find somebody else's point of view
Mm.
about you?
Yeah, no, that's a great question, Hamad. I think a lot of our younger generation, the kids especially, they're and not just kids. I would say even young professionals who are in their 30s and 40s. I've spoken to them and they have come to me and they have had the same struggle about, oh my God, I spend so much time on Facebook, on Instagram. I just don't know where my time goes. And the reality is that yeah, you have to realize that these tools are just tools, right? What I mean by that is if you look at how any tool has evolved throughout the human life, we started off by building an arrow, right? Now, if you use an arrow to kill an animal, which our ancestors, hunters and gatherers, many, many thousand years ago, they used those arrows to kill animal. They used the tool, which is an arrow, for a good purpose to feed themselves. They killed an animal, they ate those animals, and they survived, right? That was for survival. They used now, if you start using that same arrow and start, you know, cutting yourself or hurting somebody in your family or so on and so forth, you're not really using the tool in the right way. So you have to first off realize that these, don't blame the tools basically, right? The fault is not in Instagram, the fault is not in Facebook, the fault is not in LinkedIn. The fault is in us as individuals and the way we are leveraging these tools for our everyday purpose. What I suggest a lot of these, and this is difficult to do. I'll be very honest. This is difficult to do
Yeah.
because, hey, guess what? We are addicted to the dopamine dose that the likes and the comments and the
Yeah.
hearts they throw at us, right? All those we are addicted to that. And research has shown that it's the same effect of taking drugs. You know,
Yeah.
dopamine is released when you take drugs, and dopamine is released when you are anxiously waiting for the next like or the next comment on your social media. So we have to recognize that. Number one, be aware of that. Number two, be a little bit more disciplined, which is why I said it's hard to do. It's really difficult to do because you have to be very disciplined. One thing that I learned from one of my mentors, she told me I was social media clean for a good 3 years, Hamad.
Nice.
Before I started I started on this journey of educating, teaching, and coaching, and I had completely disconnected myself from social media because I was one of those people. I was an addict of Instagram. I was an addict of Facebook. I would be on it like all the time. I'd be walking and suddenly I'll see myself on the phone and I'm like, oh my God, I didn't even realize. And I see a lot of people have that issue. Now, how do you overcome that? One of my mentors, she specifically told me that, Omar, put it in your calendar. You know what?
Right.
Schedule it in your calendar. Maybe 30 minutes, right? 30 minutes, put it in your calendar, whether it's in the afternoon, whether it's in the evening, put it in your calendar that this is my time to use social media, but use it for a purpose. Use it for a good purpose. And
Yeah.
my purpose is to build my own brand, right?
Yeah.
My purpose is to build my own brand on Instagram. My purpose is to reach out to more and more people, um, and tell them about the different aspects of my work, of my research in the space of mindset, brain empowerment, learning how to learn,
Yes.
non-cognitive capabilities. So you have to be very strategic about it, a little bit more disciplined. It's hard to do, but please, and that actually ties into Shakil's question. You know, get a mentor, get a coach or a mentor to help you in that path because it's really, really difficult for you to do it all by yourself,
Yes.
right? So Shakil is asking, just add how should one recognize and find out who is my mentor? It's a good question. A lot of people have asked me that question about How do I know who my mentor is? How do I find a great coach? um, Hamad, why don't you take a stab at this question before I do? Because I
Yeah.
have my own, but I would like to hear your thoughts on it.
Um, so I think first of all, I think again we have to really look at what our goals are,
Mm-hmm.
So if we are looking for mentors, and there could be various types of mentors. The way I see it, I think firstly, what we need to realize that a lot of these mentors are very busy people. So the best mentor is somebody who can give you some time,
Hmm.
period. And it may
Yeah.
not be somebody who is the most famous and the most busiest person, because perhaps the most busiest person would not have time to justify adding one more mentee into his list. Okay, so that's one thing.
That's
The
a
other
great
thing is
point.
that the busy people are very busy mentally also. So so if they're dealing with like 10 different people, they may not be focusing uh, on a specific mentee to help that mentee out. It looks nice to say that um, Tony Robbins is my mentor,
Yeah.
but Tony Robbins is a very busy person, right? So he would not have time um, to speak to an individual for a small stuff. I mean,
On a
he
one-on-one basis,
charges,
because that's what
right?
you really need as a mentor, right? You need that
Right.
one-on-one connection.
Sure. Yes. So that's first point. The other point is that uh, anybody who is more open to discussion, because at times somebody, I mean, I think in my view, my elder daughter is a great mentor to me,
Oh,
because
that's awesome.
um, I mean, she's just going to the university, so she's very young. But
Yeah.
in certain discussions, she actually mentored me. So
That's
the
beautiful.
age
I
and the
love it.
experience, and yeah, that's the reality. So age and the experience is not the criteria for a
Correct.
mentor. I think it's a wisdom, and wisdom and
Mm.
age and experience are disconnected. I mean,
Mm.
uh, somebody who is in a very young age can be a very wise person. In fact, another controversial sentence that I would like to say, I said something controversial about Robin Sharma's uh, thing,
Go for
and
it.
there's
Just go for it.
I read somewhere, as you grow in your age, you become stupid.
Oh, that's
So, and it's very controversial, but you think about it. When you grow in your age, uh, you slow down automatically. Over between you and me, there's a huge age gap. I try to keep up, but it's very difficult for me.
yeah.
It's really challenging at times, because age catching up, then you slow down mentally, you should slow down physically, and people who are senior in their age or senior at the job, they try to overimpose things based on their experiences.
Right. There are
And at
biases.
times, right, or experiences, but
Yeah.
at times your previous experiences may not be valid at the current time.
Hmm. Interesting.
So you
That's a
have to
great
be
point.
very, very careful. Well, the statement, as I said, you growing your age, you become stupid. Actually, if you kind of take a deeper dive into it, it's very, very interesting.
Yeah.
Because when you grow in your age, you may be carrying your legacies, you may still be carrying your baggage with you,
Baggage.
right?
Yeah.
And that baggage actually is something which may not be positive in that particular, or may not be helpful for your mentee at that particular time.
Right.
Uh, so I think somebody who can openly discuss things with you, who can share thoughts, and rather than overimposing the ideas, try to be try to be as open as possible. Okay, these are the possibilities I think available, and let that person make a choice, the mentee a
Hmm.
choice of these things.
That's really good. I really like how you said the thing about when you are looking for a mentor, don't just go with somebody who is a lot more senior to you and looks very professional and more inexperienced. It's always about the time, and I couldn't agree more. I couldn't agree more. I think, to me, the easiest answer, Mr. Shakil, to your question is, how do you find your mentor? When you are ready, I read this in a book recently, when you are ready to be coached, to be mentored, you yourself will find your coach or mentor in a way that they will appear in front of you. They'll appear because you are actively looking. If you're stuck somewhere and you're not finding the right mentor, perhaps you're not looking in the right channel, right? To me, it's about, there are so many organizations, there's so many people who are willing to be mentors and coaches to individuals like yourself, Mr. Shakil. Find those people, connect with them. If you feel Hamad will be a great mentor to you, connect with him. After this conversation, go to his LinkedIn. And Hamad, you can feel free to share your LinkedIn profile over here in the comment section. I'll make sure it pops up on the screen, and share with Hamad your what you're looking for, your goals. If you feel I am able to help you, feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn, on YouTube, on Instagram. I'm available in so many different channels. On my email address, shoot me an email. I'll be more than happy to help you out as well, right? And maybe, if after having one or two conversations, if you feel we are not the right people, guess what? We will make sure, both Hamad and I will make sure, that we connect you with the right people in our network. All right, so that you get the best out of your investment in your time. So thank you for asking that question. Before we move on to another question, which is coming to us from Mr. Nabil, I wanted to quickly talk about another tool that I have used in my life to really become a lot more self-aware, right? And that tool, I'm going to share my screen. And that tool is called Ikigai Framework. Some of you may have heard of it before, some of you may have not, but I'm going to share this with you guys because I really want you to walk away with something tangible that you can actually, right after this call, right after this webinar ends, you can go away and work on this particular tool. So the first tool we spoke about was the 5221 journaling method, for those of you who joined us late. Don't forget to watch the recorded video. We will upload it shortly after the webinar ends. The second tool is the Ikigai Framework. Give me a second. I'm going to quickly share my screen. There you go. Hopefully you guys can see it. So Ikigai Framework over here, as you can see on the screen, Ikigai comes from, it is a Japanese word. And the meaning of this Japanese word is reason for being. Okay? It's called reason for being. Very simple, it's very simple, as just like that. Ikigai consists of you sitting down and completely isolating yourself from all kinds of distractions that we have in our world. Email notifications, laptop sending us, our mobile phones ringing, our laptop sending us emails, etc., etc. There's so many distractions. Completely cut yourself off from those distractions, number one, and find a period of an hour to 2 hours where you can just sit down and answer the following 4 questions in the Ikigai framework. Start off with, what do you love? Okay, what are those things that you love? Think about, and these are some follow-up questions, right? Think about, what is that? Is there a particular subject that I can just talk about without, and I'm in a flow when I talk about that particular subject? For me, that's, I'll give my examples as I go about it. For me, what I love is giving back, right? For me, it's important to give back to the community because I feel the community, my community, this world, the society has given me so much. I want to give back. So education and that aspect is very important for me. What is it that you love doing? What is it that you can talk about for hours and hours? Something that you are emotionally very, very connected to, right? Something you are emotionally very connected to. So think about those questions when you're answering the question, what do you love? Then think about, what is it that you're actually good at? For me, it came down to, am I even good at teaching? Am I even good at mentoring and coaching? Initially, a couple of years ago, the answer was no. And then I prepared myself for it. And that's fine. Sometimes we are not always good at it, right? We may not be good at the skills that we want to develop, things that we love doing. But it is important to realize and connect ourselves with the feeling that, hey, these are learnable skills and we can become good at them. Then start thinking about the third question: what is it that the world needs? So the thing that you love and the thing that you're good at or you're not good at and you want to work towards, is that a skill or is that an area where there is a need in this world? Now think about how our current world has now suddenly been divided into essentials and non-essentials, right? So think really deeply about that. Is this a particular skill that the world actually needs, or is this a skill that the world does not really need? Because if it is a skill that the world needs and you love it and you're good at it, you're increasing your chances of success. Then the last but definitely not the least, what you can be paid for, right? Now that's a very important one. And sometimes I say, patience is virtue. You have to be patient. The money, don't always think about money as an immediate outcome. Focus on building yourself, gearing yourself up towards a particular skill, building yourself up towards a level of excellence, and money will come later on. Money and success will come later on. Just focus on the other three aspects. Do what you love doing, figure out a way to become good at it, and give back to the world, and the money will come later on. It's trust me when I say this, because even if there was any shortcut to money, we would have, everybody would be following that. But the reality is there's no shortcut to money. There's
Yeah.
absolutely no shortcut to money, which is why Warren Buffett, one of the richest person in this world, in one of his interviews, Jeff Bezos, who's also one of the richest guys in the world, he asked Warren Buffett, "Hey, Warren, you have a very simple investment strategy, which is, you buy a particular company stock and you sit on it and you just wait." And you just wait, and that's it. You don't do anything else, and you just wait. You do nothing, and it grows. He said, it's such a simple strategy. Why do people not follow it? And Warren Buffett said, the reason why people don't follow it is because they don't have patience. A lot of people, they don't have patience. And that's what differentiates. That's another big factor that differentiates successful people or rich people between, from the not so successful people. Because a lot of us, I would say a couple of years ago, I was in the same mindset of quick money, quick money, quick success, quick success. And that was not the right strategy. I got to be patient. I got to work towards it. And, patience is virtue. All kind of faith also tells us about patience. So that's the framework, I would say, the Ikigai framework. Please do use some of your time this weekend to work on it. And one thing I will promise you is the fact that if you are able to write out the answers to these four questions: what you love, what are you good at, what the world needs, and what you can be paid for, and send it to me on my email address, which I'm just going to write down over here, I will personally take time from my schedule to respond back to you. So shoot me an email with your answers to those questions, and I'll respond back personally to you and help you on your journey of self-awareness. So, Hamad, we have another question coming in from
Mhm.
Mr. Nabil. His question is, how do you create that self-awareness if you have not learned it in the 30 years? So, I think we kind of touched on that earlier in the when we began. We did say that don't worry about if you haven't built that self-awareness, and if you're not 18 years old and you're probably 50 or 60 years old, that's okay. You have not missed the boat. Absolutely not, right? And today, Hamad and I, we have given you some tools such as the 5221 journaling method and the Ikigai framework to be able to get on that path. The first step towards getting, it's a journey of 1,000 miles, and you only start off that journey of 1,000 miles by taking that first step. So, Nabil, do not be afraid. Do not let these negative thoughts about, oh my God, I have not done it in 30 years, so what's the point of doing? Those are recognize that those are negative thoughts and kill those negative thoughts. I call it killing ants. Ants stands for automatic negative thoughts. Kill ants. Recognize those are negative thoughts and absolutely smash them. Okay. And take that first step and do not be afraid. Do not be afraid.
One, can I add one point to
Of
Nabil's
course.
question? I think that it's an interesting question. Now, the thing is, we don't know how long are we going to live, do we? I mean, there is only an expectation that, like in Canada, there is life expectancy is about 90 years. In South Asia, it's about 60 to 63 years, depending on where you are. But if somebody at 30, you still have at least 30 to 60 more years to live, right? And even if you have 5 more years to live, or maybe just 1 more year to live, why don't you live like
That's
a
so
king?
good.
Why don't you enjoy that thing? I think even it doesn't really matter how where you are in your age. I think self-awareness can actually make you happy, makes you more satisfied, and at least give you some hope for the future.
Yeah, that is so, so true. Even regardless of your age, even if you have one more year left in your life, live it like a king. Find out who you really are and live, you know, in a way that really, really fulfills your remaining time on this in this world. So thank you so much for sharing that, Hamad. Um, Great. So Nabil does give us money, sir, money. Yes, Nabil, I hear you. I understand you. Money is important for every single person. There are various different strategies, though. I don't know, Hamad,
And
if you want to.
how much is another question.
How
Now,
much exactly?
so some people enjoy making money.
Hmm.
Some people enjoy spending money. Some people are so miser they will earn a lot of money, but they won't spend it. Uh, it's like Warren Buffett, he doesn't spend that much of money. But what is the point? I don't really see. I think that, as we always say, we have to strike a balance. You know, if we don't strike a balance, then it
Yeah.
is very, very difficult for us to really enjoy what we do, really, or enjoy what we can in our lives. And a simple focus on making money would not make people happy.
Right.
At least I mean, people should make money. I mean, there's absolutely no
Yeah.
doubt about it.
Absolutely.
Even Umar, you and I are making money. We have to put food on the table. We have to
Yeah.
pay for our car insurance and home insurance and buy TTC tickets and all that. But the thing is that, how much do you really need? I just one more thing that, I know we are almost with our time. So I was sitting with a friend, with a banker, and we were talking about financial arrangement for your future, which means your retirement plan. And there were a couple of friends sitting around, and he asked a question: how much do you think you will need when you retire?
Yeah.
The plan was to retire at the age of 65. And so the other friend of mine, I was trying to stay quiet to see what the response is from the other people. And he said, I would probably need, because I hope I'll be able to pay off my house by that time, and I'll probably need about $3,000 a month to live a decent life.
Right.
And this banker says, why do you need $3,000 even like 10 years from now, or maybe 15 to 20 years from
Yeah.
now? I said, this just, I think I would need. I said, the thing is that as you grow older, your needs become minimal. So now if you buy 2 pairs of jeans every year, you will not buy probably one pair of jeans in 3 years. Your joggers are going to last for 5 years because you're not going to walk that much. You reduce your diet, you only eat vegetables stuff. So your actual need to have more money. I mean, obviously, he was talking more about
Yeah.
Canadian, because your healthcare has been taken care of, and your
Yeah.
medicines, you get
Yeah.
life-saving medicine free of cost and all that. But that is the reality. That is
Mm.
what I would think, to close the session, is the self-awareness. You probably think that you would need that much, but you may actually not need that much,
Right.
and that actually creates a balance. So you can actually, if you start thinking on those lines, you strike a balance between what you need and what your
Versus
ambitions are or your wishes
what you
are.
want. Right.
Yeah.
No, that's so that is really, really well said, Ahmad. And I really appreciate that. I think it's really important, whether you are at the start of your career journey, whether you are towards the end of your career journey and looking for retirements, having that realization that and being aware of who you are, what your needs are, what your wants are, what your strengths are, what your weaknesses are, how you feel in certain situations, all of those things are encompassed within self awareness, and which is why self awareness is very, very important. Um, I'm just going to wrap things up for everyone over here and say a big thank you to Hamad, to you for joining us today, and for each and every one of you who joined us today to view today's session on self-awareness, which is the first step towards building a successful career in Canada or anywhere else in the world. In fact, we spoke about two techniques today. Right? We started off our conversation by talking about the importance of self-awareness, right? Knowing and understanding your strengths, your weaknesses is the fundamental towards your own personal success in your personal life, with your relationships, as well as in your career life. Because even in your career, you're going to be managing relationships, right? You will have people working under you, people, bosses reporting above you. So you got to know how to manage those emotions, those frustrations, and be more aware. So the two techniques that we spoke about today were starting off with the journaling, right? We said there is a journaling method which takes, only 5 minutes. And I encourage each and every one of you to try this out and let me know, shoot me a message, tag me on Instagram, on Twitter, on Facebook, and share. I'm going to share some of our channels where you guys can, connect with us. So here it is. So this is where you guys can connect with both Hamad and I on Facebook, on Instagram, YouTube, LinkedIn, on our websites. So, share with us how that 5221 technique worked for you. 5221 in a quick nutshell. Take 5 minutes of your time at the end of the day, before you go to bed, and reflect back on that particular day, for 2 minutes on things that you did not enjoy, another 2 minutes on things that you did that you enjoyed and it gave you more positive energy, and another minute just writing down one liner saying, this is how I'm going to do more of the stuff that I enjoyed and less of the stuff that I did not enjoy. So that's the 5221 journaling technique. Then we looked at the Ikigai framework, which is, in a Japanese concept, it means the reason for being. It's the intersection of four very, very important questions. Number one, what is it that you love? Number two, what are you good at? Number three, what is it the world needs? And four, what you can be paid for. And at the intersection of it lies your ikigai. And again, as I said earlier, if you write out your ikigai framework and answer these questions and send them over to me on the email address shown on the screen, I'll be more than happy to take some time out of my schedule and respond back to you personally and give you feedback and work with you on your journey towards a better career and more self-awareness. My name is Omar. I had Mr. Hamad Siddiqui with me today. Thank you guys so much for joining us. Do not forget to log on next week again, because next week Hamad will be telling us all about his networking tips and tricks, right? How he became a powerful networking person and built so many connections all over the world, and share his tips on how to build a strong network. Because at the end of the day, they say your net worth equals to your network. So I'm really looking forward to that session, Hamad, with you, and learning a lot from you next week. And I'm sure all of you guys are as well. Thank you so much, guys. And it was wonderful having you. Thank you, Hamad.
Thank you very much. Bye.
Bye-bye, guys.